Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. And in this week's video I'm going to be painting up the Oddball Hero set from Warlord Games' Bolt Action. Now this is a set of miniatures based on the film Kelly's Heroes, which I'm sure if you're watching this channel you've probably all seen it. Classic film, came out in 1970, an amazing sort of comedy war film. And it came on my mind recently for a number of reasons. Firstly, I suppose the sad passing of Donald Sutherland. I rewatched the film and thought this is amazing. Remembered that I had this set from Warlord Games and I've had this in the pile of shame for a number of years now. And obviously Warlord Games have announced that Bolt Action Edition 3 is going to be coming out in September, so why not dive back into Bolt Action a little bit? So you can see the set here, 8 miniatures based on the film characters, Oddball Sherman's crew, Kelly and kind of the characters that go from the US Infantry, and also the Bavarian as they call him, who's the Tiger Tank commander. So a really interesting set, again based around the film. But this is going to be quite an interesting kind of paint guide because it is going to be basically an American Infantry painting guide with some changes and tweaks. Now you saw they're starting off the models, they are metal miniatures, so clean them all up, quite a lot of flash on metal minis like you do get. And they come on obviously little, not slaughter bases, whatever they call them, their feet are stuck to, quite a raised thing. So I used some Vallejo basing medium there to bring the level of the ground up so those bases weren't showing. And now it's into the painting guide. So starting from the trousers and taking a US field drab. Now when you'll see me painting, this is a Kelly miniature here, Lieutenant Kelly as he was, but then got demoted, but he gets lieutenant rules in the game. This is a US infantryman's painting guide. The sort of weird differences come when you paint the Oddball crew themselves and into the German. So into the greatcoat there, so into a khaki colour. When you're painting American infantry at the sort of start of the war, into the mid-war period, they did wear all sorts of different coloured uniforms, but all gearing around the kind of off-brown colours. So I've gone for really a colour scheme that I've used numerous times over the years with American infantry. Obviously you could vary this, but I think this one works quite well for me. Now brown violet, you notice these are all Vallejo colours and it'll all pop up on the top left of the screen when you're doing it. This is the brown violet. This is the same colour you would use, or I would use, to paint any painted metal. So you do the helmets. If they've got shovels and things in there, you might do the painted metal of that, and also onto the colour of the Sherman tanks if you're doing those ones. So quite a versatile colour to use. Onto all the webbing, and one of my favourite colours, really, anything. I'd do this on webbing a lot in 40k and Warhammer and things as well, but a green-grey colour that goes really nicely to make that kind of off-khaki webbing colour around. So really to see me rattling through the base colours here, and you'll see that I'm doing it in a batch paint. So this is not just one model at a time, batch painting everything, doing the colours that apply across all the models. Now Oddball here is the Sherman commander. We're going with a red leather colour to represent that he wears that kind of different coloured bomber jacket and not the same top coat. And hopefully you'll see as we're moving through the miniatures here, we're now working on the Turk, you can see all the different layers that we've done on these models, and that really does speed it up as you're going. Into a basic flat flesh colour onto the face, the hands, and I'm using the same skin colour across all the models, and we'll do some variety with the skin sort of later. Really is a fast way of doing this, just going through each colour, putting it on every single model. So although I might not be showing every model on every stage, that is kind of what we're doing. Now beige brown onto the Tommy gun stock as you see in there, and onto any wood items that are across the model. Not too much kind of wood on these actually, it's just a few little places. And you can see we're basically done apart from the metallics on the standard infantry. So if you were following this as an American infantry scheme, you'd sort of be done. Now onto Moriarty, the mechanic and tank crewman. Got a nice big wrench there, put it onto there, and you can see he is wearing the German tank crew uniform that at the end of the film, if you've watched it, they swap out for their own uniform, and we'll see some details on how we're going to finish that kind of later on. Now, with the metallics, obviously we've done the wrench and things, there are little bits of metallic on every model, obviously on the gun barrels and those kind of things, but there are little bits of dog tags and buttons and things like that you might want to focus on. Now onto Oddball, he is an odd character, so we're not using the same leather colour that we use on the boots. We're going for a flat brown here because the gloves were not the same sort of colour when you see them in the movies and things. It wouldn't be a problem if you did the same leather colour on the boots and the gloves, because after all we're going to do some washes later on, and this is all representative. So anyone that's into seriously exact historical colour schemes, don't come for me, but you could do them the same as the boots, but I like to do it slightly different to represent that they were actually slightly different tones in reality. Now it's onto the hair and things, and on Oddball himself I've gone for a green ochre just to represent that kind of dirty blonde colour, and you'll see it change when we get to the wash days later. Now how many times do you get to do a fez on a historical model? So just dropping into a Vallejo red to go onto the fez there, and this is where we start to diverge I suppose from what an American infantryman colour scheme would be. So the red onto the fez, taking some blue and putting them into the eye lenses of the goggles that Oddball and the tank crew and the German tank commander is wearing as well. Now, that's not necessarily exact. You wouldn't really have a bright blue lens, but I think it just adds a pop colour to the model. Now we're taking an off-white colour and going around all the kind of markings on the uniforms, apart from the blue triangle patch you saw across there, which was the divisional patch that they wear. You can get transfers for those, but I'm just doing blue to represent it, onto the sergeant stripes and things that you see on a lot of the American models, and taking a little bit of it with a very thin brush and doing the piping around the collar of the tank commander's uniform and onto his hat here. So he's folded his cap up into his belt. Just putting the white line on there to add a bit of detail, and you'll see on the German officer we've done the hair already, the same colour as we did Oddball's hair. We've then done some little red patches onto where the medals and things that he's wearing are, and a bit of the brown onto the cord that he's got going down his chest. So he has been involved in the batch paint as we go, but obviously his uniform isn't done yet because he's wearing a black uniform. Now I've watered down a little bit of the dark green paint here because I didn't really want a solid green wine bottle, so it's watered down a bit, so it's just giving a green tinge to it, and actually painted the bottom of that bottle with that kind of Hessian cover that it kind of has. I don't know if Hessian's the right word, but I think that's what the cover is, and I've just used the green grey colour for that to make it kind of match in. Now I'm not actually painting the black uniform here because black's one of those colours, it's already black, it's already undercoated, but I don't want to leave it exact. So what I'm taking is German field grey, which is the colour of the normal German infantryman's kind of trousers if they're not wearing camo, and just using that to very gently edge highlight and put some paint onto those raised areas to make it look different coloured. Now it stands out quite starkly when I'm first doing it, but that's because the paint's wet, and wet paint tends to sort of cool off a little bit and it won't be as stark when it dries. Now, all the base layers are done. Let all the base layers dry, and then we're taking a Vallejo sepia game wash and putting a good coverage of this over all parts of the model, including the base, which I haven't shown painting the base, but it literally is just a brown colour that I've put on there. I do a lot of my bases anyway, so no real interest in that, but a nice layer across there. Now, when the wash is thoroughly dried, you need to give it a good 4 or 5 hours at minimum. Current temperatures in the UK, still quite warm. You could probably get away with a couple of hours, but I'd leave it a long time because you don't want to reactivate that wash. Now, I'm not showing the colours we're using at the top left like the rest of it, because all I'm doing here is taking the exact same colours we've already used and going onto the same areas and using that colour as your highlight layer. So you can see here on the edges of the pockets, it's now standing out. But all I'm doing is using the same khaki colour we've used already and just putting it on the raised edges of the model. Moving on to, again, the same, into that red leather colour that we used for all the pouches and the boots and the leather areas. And that's what you do now for this whole stage of the model. Use the same colours we've already used because you've darkened down those base colours with that wash, using the same colours and bringing up those levels. Now here we're going to drift into some new colours because when you do the flesh, you could leave it at this, but I wanted to do a slight bit of difference to make the model just pop a little bit more. So once I've done those layers with the flat flesh onto there and got the highlights out, I'm taking a very, very small amount of the red we've already used that has been sat on the wet palette now, so it's quite watered down, tiny amount in a thin brush, and put it across the mouth area to give a very slight tinge of red. Taking some white and dropping a tiny bit of white into the eye sockets, and then going into the black and putting an even smaller amount of black into the middle of that white we did to give the eyes. I really don't like painting faces, but this is the simplest way I find just to make them look good enough to make it look like you've made the effort. Once that's then done, I'm then going into another wash. So this one's actually the first non-Vallejo paint we've used, and that's a Reichland flesh shade into the areas on the face, like the lower parts of the cheeks. And that's it, that's the paint job. So showing you there, we've seen Oddball, seen Moriarty the mechanic there with his German uniform and his wrench. We're on to the Turk, who doesn't actually have a name other than the Turk, with his bottle of wine and his fez. One of my favourite models. I think he did a good job on the face there. Kelly did not do such a good job on the face, made a bit of a mess, but quite a nice model. But actually, considering it's Kelly's Heroes, the film, that's the plainest model we've got. Big Joe just having thrown a grenade. All good there. And Crap Game, that is his actual name if you've not seen the film. I love the watch that he's wearing on the right hand side of his wrist there. A really nice little touch onto this model. Really enjoyed that one. I think the Crap Game model is probably my favourite, carrying his Browning over his shoulder. We have Barbara, or in the film as they keep calling him Barbara, just one of the infantrymen there. And then we have the Bavarian as the German tank commander. So all done. I really enjoyed the set. And here it is, just showing you with the Oddball Sherman that you can also get with Warlord Games. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again.